welcome everyone. My name's Grant and I'll be the host, I guess, of this session. And I'm from Prosper. And I've got three, a bit of an all-star cast online today. So from my left, I know everyone's screen is maybe a little bit different, but from my left, I've got Lani Bartlett, who's the recruitment advisor at Intergen. I've got Anne Gamet, who works at Tata Consultancy Services, and you'll find out, don't worry, a lot about these employers in a moment. And Ananya, who's actually a software tester at DXC Technology down in Wellington. So welcome everyone, hope you're well. I might actually pass across to you, Anne, first, if you'd like to just introduce yourself to all the students online and share a little bit more about TCS and what you guys do.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. A really warm welcome to you all. Thanks for having me on the panel. My name is Anne. I manage the academic interface program, including the graduate and internship hiring for both Australia and New Zealand. I've always been in human resource. I do talent management, so I do help our grads in their career. I do a lot of career coaching. With that, I also am a diversity ally, and I work in a lot of other projects. Tata Consultancy Services is a global leader in IT services, consulting and solutions. So we're very big on our customer. We believe that we want to partner with customers on their digital transformation, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. Just so many opportunities right now within our organization to get involved, but really looking forward to speaking to everyone and with the rest of my panelists.
Thanks, Anne. And Ananya, can I hand to you next?
Yep. So my name's Ananya. I joined DXC about two and a half years ago as a graduate. I currently work as a software tester, and at DXC, we have a variety of services, and I in particularly work in the application side, but we've got also computing, cloud, security, engineering, analytics. Yeah.
So interesting. I'm sure a lot of students want to know a little bit more about what you do, and we'll definitely get to that in a bit. And last but not least, Lani.
Good morning, everyone. By way of introduction, my name is Lanis Bartlett, and I am one of the people experience partners here at Intergen. My role sits across Empire and Intergen across Australia and New Zealand, and I sort of manage and look after everything talent related, which includes, I guess, our graduates and internships, but then also other BAU recruitment as well. A little bit about Intergen. So just really quickly to give you some context, Intergen was established back in 1999 and made the singular decision back then to build its capability and business models around Microsoft technologies. So building on that focus for the last 22 years, we have become one of the largest Microsoft only solutions provider in New Zealand. So we have about just a little over 300 employees. We span across 5 locations, 4 in New Zealand and 1 in Seattle. And our business supports many customers, some that you may know, which include DIA, Les Mills, there's MBIE, 2 Degrees, AUT, Sky City. So we sort of span across a wide multitude of sectors. And I'm really excited to be here and to answer all of your questions.
Thanks, Lani. And that's a really good reminder, actually, for all the students that are online, if you can feel free to utilize the chat or the Q&A function within Zoom. And if there's a question that's on the subject or something that we've just picked up, then I'll dive into it straight away. If not, then we will park it and we'll definitely allow some time for questions at the end. So we'll allow for sort of 5 or 10 minutes there. So yeah, please get engaged and start asking some questions because we'll definitely get to them. But first of all, I'd like to kick things off for you, Anne, if I can just ask you around in terms of what's the most important piece of advice that you would provide to all the students on the call and to students in general, really, when they're looking for work, whether it be internships or graduate jobs?
The most important thing is I think you need to don't make the mistake of just doing mass applications without really having a look at what it is you're applying for. because that sort of translates down the track when we come to interview you. So really just have a think about where you're applying, find out a little bit about that organization, and also just keep an open mind about the type of organizations you go for, because the things that I always find about where graduates apply, they see the big brand names, but I actually think go for those organizations that you probably might not have heard of, because they're the ones I do feel that are probably going to give you a different variety, a type of experience. That's the thing that I always tell my grads is be open to opportunities, be open to experiencing a variety of learning. So don't try and put yourself in a box, is what I'm saying. Be very open-minded, be open to learning, really have a think about where you want to put your resume so that you can really put your best foot forward for that organization when it comes down to interviewing. And I don't know where all of you are in your journey, but do, start to have a think about, I work in the internship space as well. And I really do think if you have a little bit of time between now and when you graduate, have a think about applying for some internships, or any volunteering experience, or anything that's going to really make a well-rounded application to an organization. Have a think about those things now before you graduate.
Awesome advice. I love that, Anne, and it's so true, and the data actually backs it up that students who apply for more targeted roles and actually less jobs are more likely to actually get hired, as opposed to maybe applying for 50 or 100 jobs out there. So yeah, love that advice. What about you, Ananya? If I can throw to you, if you can talk a little bit. Well, you went through this process a couple of years ago as a grad. Sort of looking back then, what advice would you provide to yourself when you're going through that process, and any tips and tricks for students online?
Yeah. So my advice is to do a little bit of research into what you want to do. If you had asked me when I first joined uni if I wanted to be a software tester, I would have had no idea what they do, no clue. And I probably would have said to you no, but now actually going in 2.5 years into the job, I absolutely love it. I was so glad I got into this role. So my advice is to research into the area that you're studying, what roles there are opportunities for you, and to understand what each role is so that you can have a little bit of context and idea about it. And also to look into different opportunities. So obviously you guys have all come to this panel session, which is really good. It shows that you've taken that extra initiative to come and look at this panel session, understand from different employers what's going on. So I definitely recommend grabbing those opportunities, because opportunities won't come and find you. You got to go find them. And also when you do grab those opportunities, be smart about it. Because in the past I have gone to in-person sessions where you do social networking, and I've had people ask me, what does DXC do and stuff, but I'm really interested to have a conversation with some of the students who already have done their pre-research, because they know they're coming to the session and asking me more relevant, more specific questions. So it shows that they've taken that extra initiative. Yeah.
Love that. Thanks for sharing. And Lani, do you have any further thoughts on that? We've got a similar theme in terms of do your research first. Anything else you can add on that front?
Yeah, I think Anne and Ananya sort of covered it off quite well, actually. I think the only additional thing I would probably add is most employers will have values, and I think it's really important that you try to find an organisation where your personal values align to the company as well, because you'll find that if you sort of value the work that they're doing, you're most likely going to also find meaningful work in that organisation as well. So that's probably the only additional part if you're applying for roles anyway.
Yeah, and just pulling on that thread a little bit more around the research, and feel free, either three of you, to dive in here, but because it's a similar thread that comes up of where students get told to do their research, but a lot of the students don't know how to do their research. So maybe if you could list off the first one or two things that come to mind in terms of where they can actually start diving in, doing their research and finding out a bit about your various companies.
Yeah, I think most employers have case studies on their website. So I think that's a good place to start, in addition to looking at the values as well. But the case studies will show the individual, I guess, some of the projects of work that the company gets engaged on or that they work in, and see if that's something that's of interest to them. And that's a quick way to sort of identify whether or not that actually is what they'd like to do in their future. Are these the types of customers they'd like to work on, or the technologies they'd like to work with? It's a good way to do that. Probably other thing I'll add before Anne and Ananya pop in is probably also just trying to understand the grad roles as well. So unfortunately, being that university doesn't quite give you all the detail around what it's going to be like, I guess, the day in the life of a graduate in an organisation. And you can actually, Prosper has a great website where most of the employers will have an employer profile, and you can get an idea of what it might look like as a software developer or a consultant. So a good way to just, I guess, go and check out what that looks like there as well.
Thanks, Lani. Anne or Ananya, anything else to add on that front of?
Yeah, that's great, Lani. I would also probably look at a lot of the social media handles, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, if there is, because they sort of have a different angle. They try to communicate to the everyday people. So, if you're not speaking the technology language, they try and give you some perspective about the organization. So, for example, like Lani mentioned, just the values part is so important, because you want to know, do they have corporate social responsibility? Do they have any sort of pro bono work that they do? What will you want to get involved in when you join that organization? And they're the sort of stories that you'll see on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. And also you can just even have a look at their people. So I'm sure, the background of the people would be in their website or either in their LinkedIn, and you can see what the type of post that they're posting. That'll give you a really good understanding of the type of people that you might be working with or for, and just gives you a broader perspective of that organization. And I really love when Ananya said, she wants to interact with someone who has a little bit more knowledge of the organization, because it does take that interview to, I think, another different area rather than just very specifically set questions. That's what you want to do when you get in your interview. You really want to be able to move that interview just from the basic questions that they're asking.
That's awesome. And Andrew, I've actually got a question for you that's come through in the chat, if I can dive into that. It's come from an anonymous attendee, but they've said, hi, Ananya, what methodology, tools, or certificates are required for you to work in software testing? Can you walk through that a little bit?
Yep. So actually, I can't speak for all companies, but for us, there was no specific requirements on what certificates and stuff we had to do. I personally studied commerce, and I did a bit of information systems. So if you have a little bit of IT background and a little bit of IT knowledge, that's good enough, and you can get into testing. We've got a few sides of testing. We've got obviously like the more technical side, functional side, but when you first join, they put you in a little general area, and then you get to, like, as you grow, you get to choose what field you want to do. There is a certification called ISTQB, which is basically an international testing certification. But people usually do that after they've started working in the testing field, and usually your company would sponsor you to do that. Yeah. Hopefully that answers your question.
Great insight. Yeah, thanks for sharing.
No worries.
Lani, if I could maybe throw back to you. So in terms of your organisation, Intergen, what are you looking for in an application? So when one pops into inbox, what are the things that you're both looking for, and also the call outs and red flags per se? Would you like to walk through that a little bit?
Yeah, good question. I think it's first thing that we look for is actually passion in technology, right? Because we're in the IT sector. So, and sometimes it can be quite hard to sort of portray that on a CV or resume. But a good way to be able to do that is providing links to, say, projects of work that you've done outside of university, because that gives the hiring manager insight into some of the work and languages that you like to use, especially if you're a developer. So hiring managers in particular, or leaders at Intergen, I should say, really value that, because it gives us a sense of the person's personality and what they like to get involved in and what they've done previously. And then also just cover letters. I think, because and Anne and Anya will know this, is that you get tons of applications that come through, and a cover letter is just a really good summary of, one, the role that you're interested in, why you're interested in that role, and what you think you can bring into that role as well. And then any additional things that you could add into it as well. So I know a lot of uni students recently have, in the developer space, have been adding GitHub websites or links to their profiles, which developer leaders in our organization really enjoy looking at, because they're like, oh, that's awesome, like all these things that they're working on. For consultants, a little bit hard, because you're not going to attach a whole consultant presentation to your resume. But some people have recently, some of the applications that we've had actually did a little video, an intro video, just to talk a little bit more about why they'd like to be a consultant and what that meant to them. Yeah, and then questions that come through as well, just really quickly. Sorry, Grant, but we've because sometimes the roles that we advertise are quite specific, so you might not necessarily know what that role actually does. So just flick us an email. Myself and Declan are always usually really happy to just give you a phone call just to talk to you a little bit more about that, because it can be quite confusing as a grad, looking at all these different roles online, thinking, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I studied that. But just give us a call, because we can talk it through with you.
It's a great shout. What about yourself, Anne? Anything else to add on that front?
Yeah, no, that was all really good. I think if you're in your resume, I think you need to be quite upfront about some of your achievements or areas that you've worked on, and just some of your maybe strengths, whether they're technical or soft skill. Put them right at the top, because you want to be quite succinct in your resume. You only probably have 1 or 2 pages, so make it really stand out by putting some of the things that you're quite proud to talk about. And if I ask you in an interview to tell me that particular project, that's going to come to mind very quickly for you. So really just put, like I said, put forward your sort of top your skills, and also just have a think about the type of organizations and their job ad, maybe making sure that your resume is matching what they're asking for. So that's really important, because when I go to look at what I've asked for in a job ad and it has nothing to do in the resume, very hard for me to put you forward. So really just have a look to say, yep, I've got everything they're looking for. They've said all of these things. I put it in my resume. So that at least will give you a really good opportunity to get to that next step of potentially getting screened or interviewed. So I try to coach every single applicant if possible, because I want everybody that comes through TCS to be successful. But I will only get to that point if I see that your resume is matching what we need. So really have a think about what you're putting in your resume.
And that goes back to all three of you at your earlier points around do your research, and then once you do that research, match that up and kind of mirror that into your CV and your cover letter as well when you're applying. A couple of really good questions coming through in the chat, so I might dive into this one from Bhaskar. So he asks, where will you see the NZ IT industry in the future, especially post-pandemic, and what that will look like? Who wants to dive in and answer that one?
I could go. So it looks a lot more like, I feel like it'll be probably a lot more flexible work life, and a lot more working from home. I remember last year after our first lockdown, about 80 or 70% of our organization started to work from home, and we've still got our office spaces in Wellington, Christchurch, and Auckland in New Zealand, and they're more used like a collaboration space. We've got a couple of regulars, but yeah, it looks a lot more flexible lifestyle.
It's a really interesting point. We did a survey, or we looked into some data recently on our Grad New Zealand website, and we found that 12% of students in New Zealand were actually now looking, or at least open to working from home, whereas in the past it was like 1%. Yeah, most students were looking for a job in an office. Really interesting. Lani and Anne, anything else to add on that front?
Yeah, I suppose just adding on to Ananya's point, yeah, it definitely does look flexible, but I think it's providing a new ways of working, right? So that's the beauty of technology, is that it does enable us to be able to continue to work remotely. We know that some people though like being able to go into a work office and be around people, so we'll continue with that as well. And it does all really dependent on the customers too, and what their sort of business models look like. But I think as graduates in particular, it would be quite hard for you to start, especially embarking on a new journey or a new role, being 100% remote, because we know that actually you're most likely going to learn more coming into an office, hearing conversations with your senior peers, and being involved in that, because we know that when you're at home, you can't exactly just swing your desk chair around and ask a question, whereas in the office space, you definitely can. So whilst, yes, there is lots of flexibility, I would highly encourage you as an industry starter going into the IT sector to spend time in the office when you can, and it's safe to do so, because that's probably where you'll learn the most.
It's a great shout. That's awesome. A couple more questions coming through the chat, so I might throw the next one to you, Anne, in the interest of going around the circle per se. I can't see their name actually, it's blanked out, but if you can share some more information on why cover letters are important, and what are the major differences between a resume and a cover letter. Anne, do you want to walk through that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I do actually like seeing cover letters as well as what Lani was saying, because sometimes there's not enough in the resume for me to go off. So a cover letter, just to put it really basically, is just a quick, brief summary about yourself. It's that it's something to get the hook into your resume. So it's not going to be lengthy. You want to keep it to a few paragraphs on one page. Gives you a nice succinct summary about yourself, why you've particularly applied, why is it that you're passionate about something, put down a particular thing why you think you're good for that role, or that why that grad program, or why that organization. So it's that selling off of a point for us to then have a look into your resume. So I wouldn't put everything into a cover letter, and I wouldn't put everything into just all the basics in your resume. So try to, if you can do a bit of quick, succinct points about yourself, I think that's the most important thing. So the reason why a cover letter, like I said, for us, we get quite a lot of resumes coming through, and it's just really difficult to see that person come out through their resume. And I want to give people a chance. So cover letters sometimes will give me an opportunity to give that candidate a call and say, I was really interested in what I read, and want to find out a little bit more about you. So any opportunity that you can do that, I think take it. And where they do ask for a cover letter, it's good to provide a cover letter, because that shows that you've obviously then read the job ad and that's what they've asked for. And taking that little bit of an effort is going to make a difference in your application.
Fantastic, thanks, Anne. And Ananya, a question for you again from Yash. Is DXC Technology, basically, it's DXC Technology hiring grads and interns at the moment? And if yes, how can they apply? Cool. Seems like we've got some interested students online.
That's great, Yash. Yes, I think we've got 2 openings left in the developer space. There's an online booth session after this Is that right? Yeah.
That's
My
right.
colleague Jenny will be there and she'll be able to tell you more information about that. If you are more keen towards like testing or business analyst roles, I think those applications have closed, but we do often have like entry level opportunities throughout the year. So if you keep your eye out on Seek, that they've got a lot of opportunities there as well. Yeah. But Jenny should be able to tell you a bit more about the graduate stuff in her virtual booth.
That's right. So there'll be virtual booths online in 4 minutes time, actually, at 11:30 NZ. Another great question from Guillermo. I think I pronounced that right, hopefully. He's asked, maybe Lani, if I could throw this one to you. Is it true that the average recruiter takes no more than 10 seconds to look or read through your resume?
I'm not entirely sure if that's entirely true. I think just when Anne sort of mentioned around cover letters, I'm just going to go back to that point. That is your selling point, and that is a tailored letter to the organisation that you're applying for. So I'm going to say it takes a little bit longer than 10 seconds to make an informed decision around whether or not your application is going to go through, because I think most employers and recruiters want to give everyone a fair shot in applying. So if you've been able to capture their recruiter's attention in that first paragraph, as Anne mentioned, then they're going to spend longer than 10 seconds. So again, highlighting the importance of making sure that you have tailored it accurately to the role that you're applying for, because that is going to allow the recruiter to spend more than 10 seconds.
I love it. Unless you're a speed reader as well, to be fair.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
not at that ability yet, Lani.
No.
Awesome. So we've got a couple of minutes left, and then I've got a quick video to actually play for all the students online to make sure that you're prepped and ready to rock and roll in the virtual booths. But if I can just do a quick round the table, and I might start with yourself, Anne, if you can talk a little bit about TCS and why students should apply for the organisation. What makes TCS a great company to work for, basically?
Yeah, look, I've been with TCS for over 8 years. In that time, I've had about 3 different roles within HR, because that's where I'm passionate about. But if you're passionate about technology, what we can offer is we're a global organization. We actually offer the fact that we're not just going to offer you a role in Australia. You could have a role anywhere around the world once, obviously travel opens up. But also it's about different technologies, working with different clients. There are so many different skill sets that we're looking for, from data analytics to cybersecurity to cloud computing. Just so many projects that we're working on at the moment. I can't even begin to tell you how many opportunities that have come for us. And I'm very grateful, because I work in an organization that is growing, that still continues to grow. So if you're looking for an organization that is going to give you a chance to work in different projects, I think TCS would be great.
Thanks, Anne. And Ananya, what about yourself?
I think it's a great place for all of you guys who are going to start your career. DXC, I can personally vouch for it myself, because I did go through that process as a graduate or as an entry-level role. DXC provides a wide variety and opportunity of support, whether it comes to training, whether it comes to learning new certifications. And the good thing about DXC is we never throw you into the deep end. We've got a full program ready for you. We got a buddy system where there'll be someone who supports you throughout the your project, who joins your projects with you. A lot of mentoring is available, and a lot of support in general.
Thanks, Ananya. Lani, what about Intergen? What makes it an awesome place to work?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think our culture is based on our people. They are the key to our business, and we employ people who are genuine, honest, seriously committed to what they do, and above all, talented. So as a graduate, you'll engage in continuous learning, which will provide you the ability to build a career in IT. So if you're looking for an organisation where you'll be provided with meaningful work and be able to go home and talk favourably about your day, then Intergen is probably the place you'd like to be.
Awesome. Thanks all. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you so much to all the students online for asking all those questions. I know there was a lot of questions that I didn't get to, unfortunately, but you've definitely got the opportunity. So all three, so Intergen, CTS and DXC, they've all got virtual booths. So feel free to jump into those booths once we wrap up this session in a moment. But I'm just going to quickly share this video on behalf of Summer of Tech, who are the sponsors of this event, have actually made today possible. So a big shout out and thank you to them. But yeah, I'll just share my screen quickly and hopefully the sound pops through as well.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Ruth. I'm here from Summer of Tech to help you get ready for the Computing and Technology Super Fair. I hope you watched our warm-up video yesterday. Today, we have a quick reminder of our top tips and a pep talk to get you ready to jump into the Super Fair. So a quick recap from yesterday's video. This is an exciting time and next step. You're about to build some connections in the Aotearoa tech industry. It's such a cool opportunity. Don't be shy. Nikki talked about preparation. You've checked out the website so you know who's here. You've heard from some of the companies at the panel sessions. So now's the time to jump in, learn more about specific employers and have a chat with them. Before we do that, some top tips to get you ready to go. So now is a great time to switch on your camera if you haven't got it on already. It is easier to make a connection if we can see your face. Quick check for background distractions and you're good to go. So try and relax and be yourself. Eye contact, be friendly, polite and courteous to others who might be waiting for a turn to speak. Ask a question, show you're interested. Do a quick introduction if it's a group session, so just your name, what you're studying, maybe what type of role you're interested in. If you're in a one-on-one chat with an employer, you can go into more detail about who you are and what you're looking for. You can type in a message into the chat if you're more comfortable doing that. Be courteous and confident. Take notes so you know who to follow up with afterwards. Final words from me, you've got this. Have fun and make the most of the opportunity to connect. Final words from Nikki, stretch your boundaries. Don't be shy. Kia kaha.
Thank you, Ruth, and thank you again to the panelists, Lani and Ananya. I know your time's very valuable and you're very busy humans running around, so really appreciate you jumping on and sharing some awesome advice for the students online. So yeah, thank you once again. And to all the students, as Ruth just mentioned, take this opportunity. It is a great opportunity to connect with hopefully a future employer. So jump in there, make most of it, ask plenty of questions, and yeah, good luck. All right, bye everyone.
Yeah, thanks everyone.
Thank you.
See you.